In the last two videos released discussing God of War Ragnarok's new features provided by Game Informer, we haven't seen a great deal of gameplay in the cumulative 3 minutes we got from them. A lot can be said within those 3 minutes, however, and it is true we did receive a good dose of new combat information and a light dose of what to expect while traversing the 9 Norse realms. But that's about it. Now, let me ask you this. Do you wish we got more God of War Ragnarok footage while we wait for the game? We're nearly 2 months out, yet do you still crave for more videos and content surrounding this game? I don't know about you, but I think Sony Santa Monica is trying their best to keep most things as tight to their chests as possible as to not spoil too much of the game, which will most likely be heralded as one of the greatest single-player games of all time. We all know this game is going to be incredible, so why do we want more of an idea of what we're getting? What it comes down to is it's just hard to wait for this thing, I know, and that's why I'm here to tell you that there is probably nothing to worry about regarding the quality of this game. If God of War 2018 was a great game, which it obviously was, then God of War Ragnarok will quite easily be even better than that, as Ragnarok has given us enough confirmed information as to why it will be the best game in this franchise. We saw in the first video by Game Informer that the combat has received more awesome features that greatly add to the complexity and variety of the gameplay. By giving the triangle button a much more useful purpose this time by strengthening Kratos' currently equipped weapon element and adding more attacks, in conjunction with the wildly different uses of the parry-favored Dauntless Shield versus the ticking time bomb protection in the Stonewall Shield, we have a good idea of what to expect in terms of how Kratos and Atreus will engage in combat this time around. In addition, we also know from the second Game Informer video that each of the 9 realms will be fully playable and quite sizable in comparison to God of War 2018. With Svartalfheim being the main focus in the most recent gameplay video, we can see that the color palette is quite different from what we've come to expect from Midgard. Gone are the frigid wastes and towering mountains of Midgard being the real focus of the show in God of War Ragnarok, and instead, we have a much broader, larger, and epic ensemble of legendary lands to roam through and pillage loot from, as evidenced in the gorgeous mechanical monstrosities and exotic landscapes as shown in Svartalfheim. No need to worry about Midgard this time though, as the developers have explicitly stated that Midgard will be made like new to ensure that your second trip through this legendary realm is as fresh as the rest of the game. We can see that Kratos' weapons play much bigger roles in puzzles this time around, as the Leviathan axe is used to cap off towering geysers, and the Blades of Chaos are used to engage geysers to turn on these dwarven mechanical devices to help pave our way forward. I wish we could find out what would happen if Kratos were to, let's say, melt the ice by recalling his axe while standing atop the frozen geyser, and if he would get propelled into the sky. Now, what do you think of that? I hope there could be some cool gameplay like that players can do to further experiment and tinker with, especially in combat situations that could prove to be handy escapes and/or savage death traps for our enemies. Here we see the return of Odin's mystical birds flying around the world, surely to be yet another massive collectible that players will drudgingly slog through in order to get that coveted 100%. We have no world map sizes for any of these 9 realms, but expect these realms to be significantly larger than the ones found in God of War 2018. One of the things I criticized about the previous game was that some of the realms felt like they were much too brief, and were there to offer only optional content that had no impact on the story of the game. Take for instance, Niflheim, and its grindy gameplay loop of repeating combat encounters over and over again in order to receive some of the game's most coveted armor sets. With all 9 realms confirmed here in God of War Ragnarok, let's hope that they are all represented fairly and have significant story beats in these realms, as it would be so great to get a better feel for these places, rather than just a background to slaughter enemies in optional encounters. The grandness of Svartalfheim is imposing, and in all the best ways. We see a completely different color palette here than anything we saw in the previous game. Kratos and Atreus are seen able to paddle through the realm's rivers, navigate through bustling port towns, see towering dwarven cities and large mountains with rabid monsters lurking about. This is excellent. In fact, this is what I hoped we got to see more before the game releases. What we've seen thus far in the main gameplay reveal trailer by the developers is carefully scripted action bits pieced together to disorient viewers with its beautiful scenes and new encounters. This Svartalheim video captures some of the most raw footage of the game to date, as we can see a freaking treasure chest. Yes, guys and gals, a treasure chest. Not only that, but we can also see one of Odin's birds seemingly existing in the world as a collectible. We see dwarven contraptions serving as puzzle pieces that Kratos and Atreus use to proceed further into this grand, arid landscape. Kratos and Atreus are seen leisurely paddling along a river, and Kratos soaks up the scenery in this magnificent pan, showcasing the grandness of the environment. It is serene, and is the most pure form of the game that we have seen to date. Although we may have seen the least amount of gameplay in this most recent video, only clocking in at just over 1 minute and 30 seconds, what we can take away from it is the most unaltered footage we have of a game that almost everyone simply cannot wait to play, and I am more than happy with that. God of War Ragnarok will undoubtedly be a resounding success. Slated to be the biggest game in the franchise, and probably by a good margin, Sony Santa Monica have taken nearly 4.5 years to sculpt their finest game to date, and one that will make every fan of the franchise extremely happy. So I will ask again, do we really need to see more content surrounding this game? If we were to see more, what kinds of footage do you want to see? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, as I'm fascinated to know. The God of War community seems to be craving more reveals and more gameplay, and a good chunk of that base also doesn't seem to care about new gameplay, as they're convinced that the game is destined to be good. Anywho, let me know your thoughts. If you want more content regarding God of War Ragnarok and what we are likely to expect once the game releases, go ahead and consult this playlist of half a dozen videos I've already done on God of War Ragnarok. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future, covering more God of War Ragnarok content and many other games coming out this year, including the Callisto Protocol, Bayonetta 3, Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Plague Tale Requiem, and much more. Your support goes a long way, and once my channel grows a bit more, I'm going to be doing regular giveaways of games, both new and old. So again, thank you all for the support, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace, friends!